Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller, less confident, even though the other person just complimented you? If you've ever felt that way, be careful, because you may have just encountered one of the most subtle forms of toxic people in life. Not every harmful person yells at you, insults you, or betrays you outright. Sometimes they smile, pat you on the shoulder, and plant in you a tiny seed of doubt. And it's those little seeds that slowly make you lose yourself. Do you think toxic people are always easy to spot? The truth is, the most dangerous ones often appear gentle, kind, even caring. And sometimes they are the people closest to you. Today, I want to share with you 7 types of such people and how Stoic philosophy teaches us to protect our peace of mind against them. 1. The sweet manipulator. You see, there's a kind of person who is very hard to recognize. I call them the subtle saboteur. They will never stand in front of you and say, "Don't do that." They don't shout, they don't forbid you. Instead, they smile, nod, and in a gentle tone, full of concern, they plant a seed of doubt. Inside you, you tell them you want to open a small shop. They respond, "Oh, that sounds nice. But you know, the economy is really tough right now." Most people open up and then shut down. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Or maybe you share that you're learning a new skill and they shrug. At your age, why bother? Just enjoy yourself. They don't forbid you, but every sentence is like a thin smoke that seeps into your mind, dimming the fire of your passion. I once had a patient, a 45-year-old man, who told me that for years he wanted to switch careers, but every time he shared his dream with a close friend, he would get advice like, "Your current job is stable, why take the risk?" Slowly, he began to believe he wasn't capable, not because he was weak, but because every dream he had was covered with the dust of well-meaning doubts. Have you ever experienced this? Walking away from a conversation feeling just a little smaller, a little less sure of yourself. That is the mark of a subtle manipulator in your life. In Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius once said, "The wise man does not need the approval of others to do what is right." The truth is, you don't need someone's permission to follow your own path. Their opinions are nothing more than wind outside your door. Your value is not found in their worries or fears, but in your own clarity with yourself. I want you to imagine this. If a child was learning to walk, and every time they fell, we told them, "Stop, don't try again, it's too dangerous," would you be walking on your own feet today? In many ways, we let those same kinds of concerns hold back our lives. Stoicism doesn't tell us to hate these people or cut them off dramatically. It teaches us something simpler. Keep your mind clear. Learn to see the difference between words that truly lift you and words that only disguise doubt. And once you see clearly, you don't need to argue, you don't need to convince. You just keep walking steadily, calmly on the path you've chosen. To the energy drainer. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt like you just went through a storm? No one shouted at you, no one criticized you, and yet you felt exhausted, heavy, with no strength left to do anything. That's the sign you've been around an energy drainer. They don't hurt you directly. In fact, they often come to you with endless complaints, stories of pain and sorrow that never seems to end. They say things like, "No one really cares about me," or they text you, "You're the only one who listens to me." And in that moment, you feel responsibly, you feel you must carry their burden. I remember a middle-aged woman once told me her story. She had a close friend who, for 10 years, complained about the same problems: work, family, health. She listened, comforted, offered solutions, even sacrificed her own precious time to stand by her friend. But nothing ever changed. Every conversation ended the same way: heavy, stagnant, and utterly draining. Have you ever been in that situation? You want to help, but eventually, you realize you're being drained until you have nothing left to give, not even to yourself. Epictetus once reminded us, you cannot pour from an empty cup. It means that if you allow yourself to run dry, you lose the ability to truly love or help anyone. Compassion does not mean drowning in another person's suffering. Imagine this: if every time you meet someone, the light within you dims a little more, soon there will be nothing left but a weary shadow. And when that happens, is your presence still a gift or just an empty shell? Stoicism does not teach us to be cold or to cut people off harshly, but it does teach us about boundaries. You can care, you can listen, but you can also say, I need some space for myself. That is not selfishness, that is self-preservation. And only when you keep your own flame burning strong can you truly bring light to others. 3. The emotional controller. There are people who never shout, never give orders, and yet, somehow, you still feel trapped in their embrace. That is the emotional controller. They don't say directly, you can't do that. Instead, they whisper, I worry when you travel so far. What if something bad happens? Or, sweetheart, I don't feel comfortable with you spending time with that person. It makes me sad if you continue. On the surface, it sounds like love and concern. But if you look closely, you'll see that every word slowly shrinks your world, making you feel guilty simply for wanting to live your own life. I remember a woman once shared her story with me. During a counseling session, after 20 years of marriage, she realized she had lost all her friends, abandoned her hobbies, and had no freedom left. Her husband never yelled, never used force, but every time she tried to do something for herself, he would quietly withdraw, look disappointed, or say, I only want what's best for you. And so, she gave in. She described her life as a glass cage, sparkling on the outside, but cold on the inside. Have you ever felt that way? Wanting to choose for yourself, but holding back because you're afraid of making someone you love unhappy. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, freedom is not just freedom from chains, but freedom from allowing another person's emotions to rule your mind. And that's the lesson here. True love is not captivity. If someone truly loves you, they want to see you strong, free, and still choosing to return, not staying only because of guilt. I want you to imagine this. If every decision you make is based on will this make them upset, then whose life are you living, yours or theirs? And one day, you may wake up and realize you are no longer yourself. Stoicism doesn't teach us to rebel harshly or to burn bridges. It teaches us to set boundaries with calmness. You can say, I understand your concern, but this decision is mine, and I will take responsibility for it. That is strength. That is freedom within your own soul. For the chronic compare, have you ever sat in a conversation, hoping to be recognized, but instead you were measured against someone else? They say, look at John, he's your age and already bought a house. Or, Sarah is doing great. Her career is booming, what about you? Those words are not an outright insult, but they leave you feeling small, out of breath, and wondering, am I falling behind? This is the chronic comparer. They never see you as yourself. They always place you in someone else's shadow, as if your worth could only be measured by external yardsticks. I once met a 50-year-old man who told me that every time he visited his family, his father compared him to his older brother. He has a stable career, while you keep changing jobs. After hearing it for years, he slowly lost confidence in himself, even though, in reality, he was building a small business that supported his entire family. His story is not just about him. It's about millions of us, who at some point in life have had our true value blurred by comparison. Does that feel familiar to you? Each time you hear a comparison, you feel as if you'll never be enough. In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus reminds us, do not look for your value in the eyes of others, find it in the way you live true to your own nature. Stoics believe that every human being is a unique journey. To compare one life to another is like asking an oak tree to bloom like a rosette is meaningless, even cruel. I want you to imagine this. If a musician spent all his time comparing himself to a painter, would he ever create his own music? In the same way, when we let ourselves be consumed by endless comparisons, we lose the chance to live the life we were truly meant to live. The Stoic doesn't resent those who compare. Instead, they simply notice what is happening, smile, and return to their own path. Because the truth is this: you don't need to be better than anyone to have worth. You only need to be yourself, whole, steady, and true to your own nature. 5. The fear spreader. Have you ever met someone who makes the sky feel darker every time you talk to them? You share a new plan, and they immediately reply, "Be careful, times are dangerous these days." You speak of your dream to open a shop, and they whisper, "During the pandemic, so many businesses went bankrupt. Are you sure it's worth it?" They don't spread fear with loud warnings or angry words. They do it with what sounds like loving concern. That is the fear spreader. They believe they're protecting you, but in truth, they're binding you to the same fear they themselves are living in. The result: you start shrinking, hesitating, and sometimes even giving up important opportunities, all because of vague, borrowed fear. I once met a man in his 40s who told me this. 10 years ago, he wanted to invest in a new field, but a close friend kept repeating, "It's too risky, you'll fail for sure." He believed it and pulled back. 10 years later, that industry exploded. What he lost wasn't just the opportunity. He also lost faith in his own ability. Have you ever been in that situation, when just a few practical words were enough to kill a dream before it could even grow? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The wise man does not let the darkness of another person's mind dim the light within his own." Stoicism teaches us that fear itself is not the enemy, is simply a signal. But if we let others continually pour their fears into us, then we are no longer living with reason. We're living with second-hand anxiety. I want you to imagine this. If you drove your car with the handbrake on, just because the passenger kept saying, "Watch out, you might crash," would you ever reach the place you long for? The Stoic doesn't tell us to cut people like this out of our lives in anger. Instead, we are taught to listen, but to stand firm in our own mind. Ask yourself, is this truth or just their fear? Once you can see the difference, their gloomy predictions no longer hold you back. Because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to keep walking, even when voices around you try to hold you still. 6. The pretender. Have you ever had a friend who was always there when you were weak? They listened, they comforted you, and they made you think, "This must be the best friend I've ever had." But then something strange happened. As you began to stand tall again, to feel more confident and strong, they suddenly grew distant. They made sarcastic comments, or even mocked you. "Wow, you've really changed." Guess you've got new friends now and forgot about the old ones, huh? That is the pretender. They don't love you. They only love the vulnerable version of you, the version that always needed them, always leaned on their so-called care. When you grow, when you no longer rely on their comfort, they feel as if they've lost power. And so, the friendship turns into sarcasm, wrapped in a smile. I remember a middle-aged woman once told me her story. For years, she had a friend who was always there whenever she failed, whenever she lost faith, whenever she felt broken. But when she began to regain her balance, exercising, eating well, rebuilding her career, that same friend sighed and said, "You've changed so much. You're not the same person anymore." What hurt her most wasn't the distance, but the realization that the friendship only existed when she was living in the dark. Have you ever felt that? That someone only needs you when you're weak, but resents you when you're strong? Seneca once wrote, "A true friend rejoices when you grow stronger, not when you remain in weakness." Stoic philosophy reminds us that true friendship never chains you to your pain. It is the hand that lifts you up and then lets you walk free. I want you to imagine this. If every time you spread your wings, a friend tried to pull you back down, would you still call that friendship? Or is it just dependency disguised as concern? The Stoic doesn't tell us to confront them in anger or to cut ties dramatically. Instead, we are taught to quietly observe, stay calm, and keep moving forward. Because you own no one, the act of holding yourself back just so they can feel comfortable. You don't need to apologize for growing, and you certainly don't need to shrink yourself just so someone else can continue to feel needed. Real friendship grows with you, and the relationships that only survive when you are weak, let them fade, while you keep walking toward the stronger version of yourself. 7. The sweet manipulator. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling just a little smaller? Nobody insulted you. In fact, the other person praised you, nodded warmly, spoke kindly, and yet, somehow, when you left, you felt less confident, more uncertain, more unsteady. If you've ever experienced that, you may have just met the sweet manipulator. They never give direct orders. They never humiliate you in public. Instead, they've mastered a subtle art, planting seeds of doubt inside you with words that sound like genuine care. They might say, "You're really talented. It's just that sometimes you seem a little impulsive." Maybe it's a lack of experience. It sounds like constructive feedback, but you walk away carrying a heavy thought. Maybe I'm not enough. I once witnessed this in the workplace. A colleague would praise my friend during meetings, but then whisper to the boss, "He has potential, but I worry he's not stable enough." The result, my friend was slowly excluded from big projects, and worse, he started to believe he truly wasn't capable. Does that feel familiar? When someone shows up like a mentor, the one who understands you best, but in reality, they are making you believe you need them in order to have value. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, do not hand over the reins of your self-worth to the words of others. The Stoic never lets sweet words become invisible chains. Because the moment you believe your value depends on another person's opinion, you've already lost the greatest freedom, the freedom of your own soul. I want you to imagine this. If every day you looked into a mirror and only saw yourself through the words of others, would you still recognize who you are? Stoicism doesn't ask us to explode in anger or cut ties abruptly. Instead, it teaches us to keep in a distance, to observe as if from the outside of a theater, seeing their manipulation as nothing more than a play. And once you hold that clarity, their words become nothing more than wind outside your door. Because in the end, The truth is this: you don't need anyone to confirm your worth. Your clarity, your steadiness, your belief in yourself, that is the foundation that no manipulator can ever touch. On the journey of life, you will always meet people who make you doubt yourself, who try to pull you down, or who slowly drain your spirit. But do you remember the words of Marcus Aurelius? True freedom is not allowing your mind to be ruled by another. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to cut them off dramatically. You only need to keep your mind clear, guard your boundaries, and most of all, never give anyone the power to define your worth. If this video has sparked reflection in you, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear these words. And remember, peace is not found out there. It begins with how you choose to respond to the world. And when you can keep that peace within you, you have already won in the quietest, yet most powerful way.